and then I'll do a quick intro. So thanks everyone for joining. We've got Continuity Software on the call today to show us their API integration with their tool. So I will hand it over to them to have as much time as possible to show their demo, but as we go through, feel free to unmute, ask questions, provide feedback, and then at the end, Avi and Tomer, you have the well-architected team here and the product team. So if you have any thoughts or things to consider for the roadmap in the future, we'd love to get your feedback on the tool as well. So let's just kick it off, and I'll hand it over to you to start walking through the demo.
Great. So thank you, Lauren, and thank you everybody for having us. So let me start very quickly with an introduction on the company and what we're doing, and then we'll continue with a demo, and we'll present also the integration part that we did together with the Well-Architected tool. And together with me is Tomer, Chief Architect for the cloud product, and my name is Avi, and I'm the VP Head of Cloud Business at Continuity, leading our cloud SaaS offering. So very quickly about ourselves, Continuity Software started at 2005, 15 years ago, focusing the enterprise market segment. I would say that most of our customers are part of the 500 Fortune companies, 6 out of the 10 biggest US banks. And as a company, we are focusing on the area of IT and cyber resilience. So we have solution on that domain. We started initially with supporting our customers that are running critical workload on-prem. Later on, they moved to private clouds, and of course, eventually to public cloud, starting with AWS. So as a company, we provide proactive prevention for outage and data loss protection, and also provide continuous adherence with the AWS Well-Architected Framework, as we'll show today. In general, we are a multi-cloud hybrid company, and our relationship with AWS started as an advanced technology partner, and we are also available through the AWS Marketplace, both public and private listings. Very quickly about why Continuous Well-Architected. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with that, so I'll run through that very quickly. So in general, it's a combination of complexity from perspective of teams and technology, specifically with enterprise customers, ongoing changes, customers that are running several deployment to production, rolling updates to production, and knowledge base with the pace of innovation and coming from AWS, and having the right controls in place. So all of these together eventually put the customer in a position that they need to automate, and they need to have kind of continuous assurance for their configuration. Regarding our solution, Coral, we cover 4 main use cases in order to provide best-of-breed infrastructure. So it starts with what we call proactive validation, kind of shift left in order to eliminate risk. Practically, we integrate with the customer CI/CD pipeline. So once the customer deploy to staging or pre-prod, we sense that there is a change, and we share via API critical risks that we see based on changes that the customer did, and we expect the customer to handle the risk and the misconfiguration before they continue to production. And in general, taking a proactive approach, comparing to fixing flaws in production. So this is the first use case. The second one is best of breed for reliability, with a focus on outage and protecting the customer data before it's lost, damaged, or stolen, specifically around cyber attacks. The third use case is specifically complying with the AWS best practices around the Well-Architected Framework, and for that specific purpose, we've integrated with the Well-Architected tool that we'll show in a minute, and we are covering the 5 pillars of the framework. And I would say that most of our knowledge is currently around security and reliability, which the customer finds very important for them. And the last use case is around self-healing. So we are not only providing for our continuous assurance solution a dashboard and insights and risks and recommendations, but we also provide capabilities of self-healing based on open source functions that are related to specific risks that we share through the product. And practically we allow the customer to automate their own internal process in order to achieve self-healing and reduce operation costs. In a nutshell, we reduce unplanned outages, and this is based on our 15 years experience. With 80%, the setup for the SaaS cloud product is less than 5 minutes. It's based on a read-only role, account to account. So it's very quickly using our wizard to add and onboard new accounts. And we currently have more than 300 infrastructure misconfiguration rules in place, and this is growing on a daily basis. We have a free trial available for everybody, 14 days trial. It's limited to 500 nodes using Coral with all the features available. And very quickly, we share with customers that onboard insights on their on critical workload. So it's available for everybody to try. We recently started to work closely with a new partner specifically around well-architected. So this is kind of a use case. So we work closely with CloudZone, which is a premier consulting partner. What they did is very interesting. They practically use our tool in combined with the other practices and tools provided by AWS, and they have created their own well-architected methodology. And what you can see over here, that practically it starts with onboarding Coral. So they use our tool in order to highlight areas of risks, specifically around well-architected reviews that they run with customers. And after that, they're working closely with customers using our tool and the well-architected tool to identify risk indicators. Then they create kind of statement of work, and eventually they work closely with the customer to handle those risks detected, and they do that on continuously basis. So what I suggest is let's give Tomer to start the demo, and we'll take it from there. Tomer, you want to share the screen?
Sure. Does anyone see my screen?
Not quite yet.
Let's
Still
wait a few
spinning.
seconds.
It will show up eventually. It just takes a little bit of time when there's a lot of people on the call. We had this.
So in the
We've had this
meantime,
situation before.
So in the meantime, a short disclaimer, what you see now is running in our dev environment. It's not in production yet. We're waiting for the AWS API to be GA in order to deploy the new integration. So what I'm presenting now, it's running in our dev environment, scanning our whitelisted dev accounts.
We can see your screen, right? At least I can see your screen. I don't know if the others. Lauren, is it okay?
Yeah,
on
we
your
can
end?
see it now.
Yeah.
Okay, Tomer, you can start.
Perfect. So this is Coral. This is dashboard. First of all, when you start working with Coral, you go to accounts and you onboard your accounts that you want us to scan. Adding an account is very simple. We have a short wizard. You simply add the account name. You choose whether to scan it using a role-based authentication, which is more recommended by AWS. It's a cross-account trust with a read-only role, or using key-based. Of course, most customers choose the role-based authentication. And then it's very quickly, you onboard the account. The minute you onboard the account, the Coral starts scanning your account using the AWS API. And then on the dashboard, you'll start seeing your status. So what we see here is the overall status of all the accounts, all your workloads on your AWS. We have the health score calculated for all the accounts. We can see here all the regions that were scanned. On the map, you can see where it's deployed in the world. And each region has its own score, and you can see how many risks are open for this specific region. As you can see, we have only one red region with many risks. So you can drill down from this dashboard to see the specific risks that you're interested in. Of course, you can see how many risks are open, recently opened. You can see risk based on urgency, impact, security, downtime, net loss, and so on, and domain. From here, you can drill down to the risks themselves. This is the risk page where you can see all the risks. There's a filter when you can focus on the risks that you like to examine based again on impact, severity, account, region, and so on. If you take an example, just open a specific risk. We can go deep into this risk and we'll see this risk in details. This risk is about an EC2 instance that has a delete termination, doesn't have delete termination, that doesn't have termination protection, but do have delete termination on the EBSs, meaning that if this EC2 is terminated mistakenly using the console, the API, and so on, the EC2 is terminated and the data is lost as well. So this is just an example risk. We share the description, all the details, the impact, and the resolution. And of course, if you're interested in, you can add it to your to-do list. And then you can view your to-do and you have all the risks that you want to examine. So this is the risk list where most of the work is done. And from here, we can go to the compliance view. This is where we start to integrate with AWS Well-Architect. This is where we do the continuous integration with AWS, continuous integration with AWS Well-Architect. As you can see here, under AWS Well-Architect, we have all the pillars. For each pillar, we share all the rules that we run. For each rule, we show you the resource type that is checked, how many resources are checked, meaning you have in your environment, how many passed the rule and how many failed. And from here, you can drill down and see exactly what the risk is. And of course, you can filter it based on the pillar, based on the domain, and so on. So if we take one risk as an example, we've only seen this one, EC2 is old snapshots. We can go in and we are redirected to the risk page. And of course, again, you can go and see these risks in details and add it to the to-do list if you like. So this is the compliance view where you see all the risks. And the new integration is the insights. This is where we integrate with AWS Well-Architect. Here, you can see all the workloads that are configured on the account that we scanned. You focus on a specific workload. And of course, like in the AWS console, we see all the pillars and we see all the questions for each pillar. We have the filter where you can filter on specific questions. This is the status that returned from AWS. As you can see here, we answered only 9 questions. Most of them are unanswered because this, again, it's a demo using only the API. So you can filter on specific questions and you can filter on specific questions based on choice. Questions that the user selected something in the choices that is selected, but we have risks based on his selection, or choices that we calculated something that is interesting to see. So let's see a few examples. We are now in the reliability pillar. A question, for example, how do you back up your data? So again, you can see here all the choices that exist in the Well-Architected Framework. The first column is what the user selected in the framework itself. You can see that it checked the first 2 choices. The second column is what we calculate for this choice, whether the user complied with this choice based on the workload that we scan. So we can see the first choice is secure and encrypt backups. So these are the checks that we have to validate this choice. And you can see that the 3 bottom lines, the user is compliant. We checked the resources, and everything passed. But the first one, AWS volumes is public SQL snapshot. He has 6 snapshots, 5 passed, and 1 did not. And again, from here, we are redirected to the risk page. And you can see this risk in details. So the customer does have a volume with a snapshot which is publicly accessible to everyone, which is a huge security risk. Of course, you can add it to the to-do list like before, and we have all the risks that we want to examine. So it's the first choice. If you go to the second choice, again, when you change the choices, the rules are changed. These are the rules that validate the second choice. Identify and that everything is backed up. Here there are many misconfigurations. As you can see, there are RDS without, let's check just the third one, RDS without manual snapshot. The customer has 3 RDSs and all of them failed. Again, we can see, look at the risk, and you can see here there are 2 RDS instances. Both do not have any manual snapshot. And this is very important best practice from AWS. Each database should have at least 1 manual snapshot, not relying only on automatic snapshots, because if the database is deleted, all the automatic snapshots are deleted as well, and you must have at least 1 manual snapshot. So these are the rules that validate the second choice, and so on. And let's just take another example. We can browse the questions using the arrows. We are now in a different question in the reliability pillar. How do you design your workload to withstand component failures? Again, the user selected the first 2 choices. As you can see here, for the first choice, we said everything is okay. User selected it and everything is okay, meaning all the rules that we ran passed. And there's no real problem here. The user is correct in selecting this choice. But if you go to the second one, then here we have a problem. Most of the rules he is compliant with, but if you look at the first 2, there's an issue. And of course, we can drill down like we did before and see exactly what the issue is. Any questions?
Sure. So, I mean, you're showing 2 of the use cases here, that the user selected correct and you calculated it correct. And then one where you calculate, user says correct, but you're saying, no, we identified that it wasn't. What about the flip? If the user declares something a risk, but you identify that, no, they've actually are compliant, will that show up in the list as well?
Yes, of course. Like if you see the third question, the user did not select it and we did not find it compliant, but it could have been compliant. And based on the filters, you can focus whether on the 3 use cases, like you said, what user selected and whether it's compliant or not compliant. And if user didn't select it, whether it's compliant, it should select it because he has everything configured correctly.
So the way to get to those questions is to choose on the filter on the left side, calculated, and then you'll see all the topics that we have rules related to the services and resources the customer is using, so they can see questions with potential answers that they didn't choose, but they could choose, and they can check if they are meeting or not meeting those specific answers.
Yep. What % of the best practices within well-architected do you cover with rules?
So we checked it statistically. It's around 40% in total for all the 5 pillars. Again, it depends on of course, on the workload, because the rules are related to workload, and but in general, it's around 40%. There are a lot of questions that are totally theoretical. You cannot really put rules behind to cover them. But this is also something that we are handling and growing. So we just started with this integration, but of course we have intention to grow around that. Yeah.
Sure. Now,
currently most of our checks, like we said before, are in the reliability and security pillars, and in growing it to all the other ones as well.
Great. What do you do any write backs to the well-architected tool? If again, if you see that a question was misanswered or something like that, or is this a read only and ingesting to your system?
So in general, we do have plans to write back. This is the first release. So we just got the APIs, I think 1.5 months ago. So this is our first release, but we do have plans to write back, for example, to give the customer ability to create manual milestone. So once they, for example, correct some misconfigurations and did some changes and it reflects on our end, they can approve manually a milestone or automatically. I mean, both are applicable, sure. And then to write back to the Well-Architect. So of course, we do have plans, sure. To grow that solution and the integration. This is only the first step that we did very quickly, I would say.
And I mean, what you have so far is looking great. By the way, I'm Brian. I'm the product manager. What I'm, as I'm thinking about closed loop and how do we also learn to what else we need to add to the tool, I want to make sure that at some point that we are able to get that data back centralized, right? What are they? Since you're continuously monitoring, are they introducing risk over time? Things like that, which again can be done with milestones and other ways.
Yeah, by the way, we also have plans to add analytics on our end to show how you improve over time with the adherence to the Well-Architect. So these are also, all this is something that will come in the near future as well.
Sure. And I saw, I'll ask one more question, then I'll let everybody else go. I saw that you had Azure as well. Your software itself supports Azure. One of the things I'm hearing from customers is that they want to be able to run well-architected reviews against not just AWS, but against the other cloud providers, which of course is something that we recommend as well. So any plans at some point to also being able to run an Azure set, Azure workloads against, or hybrid workloads against the AWS Well-Architected?
Yes. Again, as initially said, we are a multi-cloud hybrid company. Currently, our focusing is around AWS, but totally 2021 will also add support for Azure. Azure also came out with their own well-architected framework, as you know. So yes, in the future, for sure.
Great. And I ask a lot of forward-looking questions because I'm thinking about my roadmap into 2021. And so I also want to hear from the partners who are really using it. What are the things you will need to help create a much tighter integration and a better experience for our customers? So what you have now as your MVP looks great. I'll let the rest of the team ask some questions, and we can connect at another time as well about kind of future state.
Thank you for the feedbacks.
Kay, did you have a question?
Can you hear me? Okay, great.
Yes.
This may have been covered at the start of the call. I had some audio issues. Just wanted to understand more about the workload identification. How are workloads defined? Are they within the continuity tool? Is it directly from the customer's CI/CD pipeline? And where there are repeatable components within a workload, for instance, if they are all rolling up under the same organization, do you have a way to kind of pre-populate those rules across multiple workloads that would have perhaps similar security or operational excellence components?
Tomer, you want to take that?
So as I showed in the beginning, you configure the account that you want to scan in the system. When we scan an account, we get all the data about the resources in that account, and now we can get the data about the workloads defined in this account as well. So the minute we scan the accounts, we know all the workloads are defined in this account in all the regions. We get all the workloads, and here we'll show you all the workloads that exist in all the accounts. And when you focus on a specific workload, we'll show you how this workload is checked based against the resources that are configured in this specific account. So you don't need to configure anything beside that. We just connect using the API, list all the workloads, match them to the specific account, and show you the status.
Great. So that would, I guess, be driven by the customer themselves on how they define their particular workloads.
Yes.
As they move
What the
through.
customer configured in the Well-Architected tool on the AWS console will be visible here, and we correlate this data with the resources that we scan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what about common aspects across multiple workloads? Are those checks run every time, or is there a template that can be applied across multiple workloads through through your product?
We run all the checks on all the resources that we scan, and we correlate the risks that we found to the workloads in the account. So if you have similar workloads in different accounts, we'll scan both workloads, all the resources, and show you the data. So here you can, till now, you can focus on a specific workload. You can see the data on 2 workloads because we still don't know how to aggregate the data from different workloads into one view. But theoretically, if 2 workloads will be configured exactly the same, with the same question, same answers, we could aggregate the data and show you the status for 2 or more workloads. But currently, you need to select a specific workload, and we'll show the data for this one.
Okay, so potential to show deviations as well from customer standards. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
I know we're running up on time, but does anyone else have any questions?
Not from me, but Lauren, we can connect and we can talk about, next steps as we're looking at our 2021 planning. So,
yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for showing us the integration. It looks really awesome, and we're excited to launch this at reInvent. For everyone else, if you know someone who wasn't able to make the call, I'll send out the recording to everyone. So feel free to look out for that. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to send them over to me, and I'll make sure that Avi and Tomer are able to answer them. So thanks again. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. It looks
Thank you.
great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.